The caseworker stood in my living room holding a folder so thick it made my stomach drop. Ms. Patricia Valdez had arrived unannounced, her expression carefully neutral, but I could see something in her eyes, concern, maybe pity. Ms. Monroe, we received some serious allegations about your parenting, she said, opening the folder. My chest tightened. My hands went clammy. I gripped the arm of my couch to steady myself. Allegations? From who? But I already knew. Only one person had been demanding more access to my daughter lately, making comments about my choices, questioning my decisions at every turn. Your mother, Veronica Monroe, filed a detailed report with our office. The words hit me like a physical blow. My own mother had weaponized child services against me. Not a phone call. Not a conversation. A calculated attack designed to strip away my rights as a parent. Ms. Valdez flipped through pages of statements, and I saw my mother's handwriting in the margins. She thinks she's won, I realized. She thinks I'm unprepared for this. I opened my mouth to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. How do you defend yourself against your own mother? Ms. Valdez continued reading from the folder, her tone professional but measured. According to these statements, there are concerns about neglect, inappropriate supervision, and unstable living conditions. Each word felt like a knife. Neglect? I had documented every doctor's appointment, every school meeting, every meal plan for the past 3 years. Through the window, I could see my daughter's bike in the driveway, the garden we'd planted together last spring, the swing set I'd assembled myself. Everything in this house screamed love and care. But Veronica had painted a different picture entirely. From across town, I knew she was probably sitting in her pristine living room, confident that her statements would be believed without question. She had always been persuasive, always known how to present herself as the voice of reason. I felt anger rising in my chest, but I forced it down. Losing control now would only confirm whatever lies she'd told. One thought crashed through my mind with perfect clarity. My mother gave false statements to child services, but the caseworker's report will end her influence. I had spent months preparing for something like this. Not this exactly. I'd never imagined Veronica would go this far, but I'd learned to document everything after years of her manipulation. Every boundary I set, she tested. Every decision I made, she questioned. When I'd refused to let her take Lily for an extended summer visit without me, she'd gone silent for weeks. That silence should have been a warning. Instead, she'd been planning this, building a case against me, collecting what she thought was ammunition. But Veronica had made one critical mistake. She assumed I was the same person I'd been 5 years ago, someone who would crumble under pressure. She didn't know I'd become methodical, careful, and quietly strategic. I looked at Ms. Valdez and took a slow breath. I'd like to show you my documentation, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My name is Esme Monroe. I'm 32 years old, a registered nurse working in pediatric care, and a single mother to 7-year-old Lily. I've spent the last 7 years building a stable life for us after my ex-husband walked away before Lily was even born. For most of those years, my mother had been supportive, or so I thought. She helped with childcare when I worked late shifts. She attended Lily's school events. But somewhere along the way, her help turned into control. She started making comments about my parenting, small criticisms at first, then larger demands. She wanted Lily to call her every night. She wanted input on school choices. She wanted me to move closer to her house. When I started setting boundaries last year, everything changed. The helpful grandmother became hostile, accusing me of keeping her grandchild from her. I tried to explain that healthy boundaries weren't rejection, but Veronica only heard defiance. Now she was trying to prove I was unfit. I wouldn't let her win. I walked to my home office while Ms. Valdez waited in the living room. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. I pulled out 3 binders I'd been maintaining since Lily started kindergarten. The first contained every medical record, vaccination schedules, well-child checkups, dental visits, vision screenings. The second held school documentation, attendance records, teacher conferences, report cards, volunteer hours. The third was newer. I'd started it 6 months ago when Veronica's behavior escalated. It contained text messages, emails, and a log of every concerning interaction. I remembered the exact moment I realized I needed to protect myself. Veronica had shown up at Lily's school unannounced, trying to sign her out early without my permission. The office called me, confused. That's when I understood. She wasn't just overstepping boundaries. She was testing how far she could go. I'd started documenting everything that day. Every phone call logged with date and time. Every text message screenshot. Every witness to her behavior carefully noted. I carried the binders back to the living room. Ms. Valdez looked up as I set the binders on the coffee table. "These are my records," I said quietly. She pulled the first binder closer and began reading. I watched her expression shift from neutral to surprised as she flipped through pages of documentation. "This is very thorough," she said. I nodded. "I work in healthcare. Documentation is part of my job. I've applied the same standards to parenting." I opened to a specific page. Here's Lily's complete immunization record. Every vaccine on schedule. Here's her dental history, no cavities, regular checkups every 6 months. Here's her last well-child visit from 3 weeks ago. Perfect health. Ms. Valdez made notes on her tablet. I continued, "Your report probably mentions unstable living conditions. Can I show you the house?" We walked through each room. Lily's bedroom was clean, organized, filled with books and educational toys. The kitchen was stocked with healthy food. The bathroom had childproofing locks I'd installed myself. Everything was safe, clean, and age-appropriate. "Your mother's statements paint a very different picture," Ms. Valdez said carefully. "I'm aware," I replied. "She's lying." Back in the living room, I forced myself to stay calm. Every instinct screamed to defend myself aggressively, to call Veronica and confront her, but I knew better. Emotional reactions would only hurt my case. Instead, I sat down and opened the second binder. "This contains Lily's school records for the past 3 years," I explained. Ms. Valdez examined page after page. Perfect attendance except for documented illnesses. Parent-teacher conferences attended every single time. Volunteer hours at the school library. Field trip permissions signed and returned early. Academic progress reports showing steady improvement. Her teacher, Mrs. Brennan, can verify all of this, I said. "I have her contact information if you need it." Ms. Valdez nodded, still writing notes. I could see her connecting dots, comparing what she was seeing against what Veronica had claimed. The evidence spoke for itself, but I knew the process required more than just good records. It required patience. I watched Ms. Valdez work, noting how carefully she reviewed each document, how thoroughly she cross-referenced dates and details. She was good at her job. That gave me hope. "Ms. Monroe, your documentation is impressive," Ms. Valdez said, closing the second binder. "But I need to ask some direct questions about the specific allegations." I nodded, my stomach tight. "Your mother claims you frequently leave Lily unsupervised, sometimes for hours at a time. She says you work unpredictable shifts and don't have stable childcare." I pulled out my work schedule from the third binder. I work 3 12-hour shifts per week at County Medical Center. My schedule is set 6 weeks in advance. When I'm at work, Lily is with her after-school program or with Mrs. Patricia Brennan, a licensed childcare provider who lives 2 blocks away. I showed her contracts with the after-school program and Mrs. Brennan's credentials. The program runs until 6 p.m. Mrs. Brennan covers evening shifts when needed. I have backup arrangements with 2 other licensed providers. Ms. Valdez examined the contracts. I could see her mentally checking boxes, verifying facts against claims. The allegations were crumbling under the weight of evidence, but I could see she was following protocol, being thorough. That was good. I needed thoroughness. There are additional concerns about educational neglect, Ms. Valdez continued, consulting her notes. "Your mother states that Lily frequently misses school and falls behind academically." I opened to a tab I'd marked specifically for this. Here's Lily's attendance record. She's missed 6 days this entire school year. 3 were for documented illnesses with doctor's notes. 2 were for family events I cleared with the school in advance. One was a school holiday Veronica apparently didn't know about. I showed the doctor's notes, each one matching the absence dates perfectly. As for academics, Lily is reading above grade level. Here's her latest reading assessment. She's in the advanced math group. Here's her progress report from last month. Her teacher noted she's excelling in all subjects. Ms. Valdez took photos of several documents with her tablet. May I contact her teacher directly? Absolutely. I'll give you her direct number. I wrote it down, along with the school administrator's contact information. They know my situation with Veronica. She tried to pick Lily up from school without authorization last fall. That caught Ms. Valdez's attention. Can you elaborate on that? I pulled out a specific section from the third binder. On September 14th, Veronica went to Lily's school during lunch and tried to sign her out early. She told the office she was taking Lily to a dental appointment. Ms. Valdez leaned forward, listening carefully. But Lily didn't have a dental appointment that day. The school called me because Veronica wasn't on the approved pickup list. When I told them she didn't have permission, Veronica became angry. The school had to ask her to leave. I showed Ms. Valdez the incident report the school had filed, along with text messages from that day. Veronica had sent me angry texts accusing me of turning the school against her, of being controlling, of keeping her from her grandchild. This was when I realized I needed to document everything. I explained. Her behavior was escalating. A week later, she showed up at my house at 10 p.m. demanding to see Lily. When I said no because Lily was already asleep, she threatened to call the police. The text messages were all there, time-stamped and saved. Veronica's anger captured in her own words. Ms. Valdez read through the text message thread, her expression neutral but focused. I watched her absorb the pattern, Veronica's increasing demands, my calm responses, her escalating threats. Did she ever follow through on calling the police? Ms. Valdez asked. No. I think she realized it would backfire. Instead, she started making comments to family members about my parenting. My aunt called me in October, concerned, because Veronica had told her I was struggling with depression and couldn't care for Lily properly. I showed phone logs from my aunt. I'm not depressed. I've never been diagnosed with depression. I have regular checkups with my primary care physician. I can provide those records if needed. Ms. Valdez made more notes. I could see her building a picture of Veronica's pattern, false claims, manipulation, escalating accusations. Every lie left traces, just as I'd known it would. Every exaggeration had gaps. The truth had a consistency that lies couldn't match. I reminded myself to stay patient, to let the process work. Justice wasn't always fast, but it was thorough. Let me ask about your living situation, Ms. Valdez said. Your mother claims the house is in disrepair and potentially unsafe for a child. I almost laughed, but caught myself. I bought this house 2 years ago. It passed a complete home inspection. I can show you the inspection report. I pulled out documents showing the house purchase, inspection results, and regular maintenance records. I have the HVAC system serviced twice yearly. The roof was inspected last spring. All smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are functional. I test them monthly and keep logs. I showed her the logs, each date carefully noted. The water heater was replaced last year. I have permits for all work done. The electrical panel was updated to code. Every room has been painted and maintained. Ms. Valdez walked through the house again, this time taking photos and notes. She checked smoke detectors, looked at electrical outlets, examined windows and locks. Everything was up to code, safe, clean. When we returned to the living room, I could see her forming conclusions. The evidence contradicted every claim Veronica had made. The house wasn't just safe, it was meticulously maintained. Ms. Valdez sat down and pulled out Veronica's original statements. I need to ask you directly to respond to several specific claims your mother made. I nodded, feeling more confident now. The evidence was on my side. She states that you have substance abuse problems and that Lily has witnessed you in compromised states. My jaw clenched. That was a new level of cruelty. I don't use drugs. I drink occasionally, maybe one glass of wine a month when Lily is asleep. I've never been intoxicated around my daughter. I'm a healthcare professional. I'm subject to random drug screenings at work. I showed her my employment file with clear drug test results from the past 3 years. I can request additional testing right now if needed. Ms. Valdez shook her head. That won't be necessary at this point, but I may follow up. She also claims you brought multiple romantic partners around Lily, creating an unstable environment. I felt my face flush. I've been single for 7 years. I've been on exactly 3 dates in the past 2 years, none of which involved bringing anyone to my home or introducing them to Lily. Why would your mother make these accusations? Ms. Valdez asked, her tone genuinely curious now rather than investigative. I took a deep breath. Because I set boundaries, and she can't tolerate that. Last February, I told her she couldn't take Lily on an unsupervised vacation to her cabin for a week. Lily was only 6. Veronica was furious. I showed Ms. Valdez email exchanges from that time. Veronica had sent multiple messages arguing that she had rights as a grandmother, that I was being unreasonable, that she knew what was best for Lily. In March, I established a schedule. She could see Lily every other Saturday afternoon, with advance notice. Before that, she'd show up whenever she wanted, sometimes multiple times a week, disrupting our routine. When I asked for consistency, she accused me of controlling her relationship with her granddaughter. Ms. Valdez read through the emails. I could see her recognizing the pattern. Veronica's language was manipulative, demanding, dismissive of my authority as Lily's mother. In June, I discovered she'd been telling Lily that I was wrong about certain parenting decisions. She'd contradict my rules, then tell Lily to keep secrets from me. I pulled out a notebook where I'd logged specific incidents. June 8th, Veronica gave Lily candy after I'd specifically said no sweets before dinner. When I addressed it, she told Lily that I was being mean. June 15th, she took Lily to get her ears pierced without asking me. Lily was 6 years old. I told Veronica months earlier that we'd wait until Lily was older to make that decision herself. Ms. Valdez's eyebrows rose. That seems like a significant overstep. It was. When I confronted her, she said she had a right to spoil her grandchild. She didn't see it as crossing a boundary. She saw my objections as controlling behavior. The notebook contained dozens of similar entries, each one dated and detailed. Boundary violations that seemed small individually but created a pattern of disrespect for my parental authority. By August, I realized her behavior was affecting Lily. My daughter started questioning my rules, saying Grandma said it was okay. She was confused about who was in charge. I showed behavior reports from Lily's therapist. Yes, I'd taken her to therapy to process the family conflict, another fact carefully documented. Ms. Valdez spent 20 minutes reading through therapy reports from Dr. Angela Foster, a licensed child psychologist. The reports detailed how Lily had been experiencing anxiety related to conflicting messages from me and Veronica, how therapy was helping her understand healthy boundaries, how she was progressing well. Dr. Foster can verify everything in these reports, I said. She's seen Lily every other week since August. Ms. Valdez nodded, making notes. Your mother's statements don't mention therapy. In fact, she claims you've neglected Lily's emotional health. Because Veronica doesn't know about the therapy. I stopped sharing personal information with her after she used everything I told her against me. She'd twist my words, tell other family members distorted versions of our conversations. I showed text messages where I'd attempted to set boundaries with information sharing. Veronica had responded with accusations that I was isolating Lily, keeping secrets, being paranoid. The irony is that seeking therapy for Lily was the responsible thing to do. But Veronica would have seen it as weakness, as proof of problems. Ms. Monroe, I'm going to be direct with you, Ms. Valdez said, closing the folder of Veronica's statements. Based on what I've seen today, these allegations appear to be unfounded. Your documentation is exceptional. The evidence contradicts every major claim your mother made. I felt tears prick my eyes but blinked them back. What happens now? I'll complete my investigation. That includes interviewing Lily's teacher, calling your childcare providers, speaking with Dr. Foster, and verifying your employment. I'll also review the inconsistencies in your mother's statements with my supervisor. She paused. I need to tell you that making false reports to child services is a serious matter. If we determine these allegations were made in bad faith, there can be consequences. For the first time since she'd arrived, I felt something like hope. I don't want to punish her. I just want to protect my daughter. Ms. Valdez nodded. I understand. But part of protection is ensuring false allegations don't continue. I'll need to speak with your mother as part of my investigation. I gave her Veronica's contact information, knowing that conversation would not go well. 2 days later, Ms. Valdez called me. I've completed the preliminary interviews. Your daughter's teacher speaks very highly of you. Mrs. Brennan confirmed your childcare arrangements and says Lily is always well cared for. Dr. Foster verified the therapy sessions and Lily's progress. I exhaled deeply. Thank you for being thorough. There's something else. When I spoke with your mother, she added to her allegations. She now claims you've been coaching Lily to lie, that you've manipulated evidence, and that you're hiding financial problems. My stomach dropped. Veronica was doubling down. None of that is true. I know. Her new claims contradict information she provided earlier. She's also becoming hostile in her communications with my office. Yesterday she called 3 times demanding to know when Lily would be removed from your care. Ms. Valdez's tone was professional, but I could hear disapproval. She's left messages saying she's prepared to take custody herself, that she has a lawyer, that she'll fight this at every level. Veronica was spiraling, making her lies more elaborate to cover the original false statements. She was making everything worse. I'm going to recommend a formal investigation into your mother's report, Ms. Valdez said. Not an investigation into you, into the report itself. The inconsistencies and contradictions suggest this was filed in bad faith. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Veronica's influence unravel. Ms. Valdez interviewed neighbors who confirmed they'd never seen anything concerning at my home. She spoke with my supervisor at the hospital who verified my excellent work record and reliable schedule. She contacted Lily's pediatrician who confirmed consistent care and attendance at all appointments. Each person she interviewed told the same story. I was a responsible, dedicated parent. Meanwhile, Veronica's behavior became increasingly erratic. She sent me 20 text messages in one day demanding I drop the investigation. She called my workplace asking to speak to my supervisor about my problems. She contacted the school again, this time trying to get copies of Lily's records without authorization. Each action was documented, each overstep noted in the case file. She was building the evidence against herself, proving exactly what I tried to tell everyone. She couldn't respect boundaries. 3 weeks after Ms. Valdez's first visit, I received a call asking me to come to the child services office. I arranged for Mrs. Brennan to pick up Lily from school and drove downtown, my heart pounding. Ms. Valdez met me in a small conference room with her supervisor, Harold Mitchell. They both looked serious but not unkind. Ms. Monroe, we've completed our investigation, Mr. Mitchell said. We found no evidence to support any of the allegations made against you. In fact, the evidence strongly contradicts every claim. I gripped the arms of my chair. Your mother's statements contain numerous factual errors, exaggerations, and demonstrable falsehoods. When confronted with inconsistencies, she changed her story multiple times. We've determined this report was filed in bad faith. Ms. Valdez slid a document across the table. This is our final report. It concludes that you provide appropriate care for your daughter in a safe, stable environment. The case against you is closed. I read through the report, seeing words like exemplary documentation, consistent care, and unfounded allegations. Then I saw the final section, concerns about reporters' motivations. The report notes your mother's pattern of boundary violations and controlling behavior, Mr. Mitchell explained. We are required to address false reporting seriously. We've sent her a formal letter explaining that knowingly making false statements to child services can result in criminal charges. I looked up, surprised. You're pressing charges. We are not at this time, but we've documented everything. If she attempts to file another false report, we will pursue charges. We've also noted in our system that any future reports from her regarding your family will be flagged for additional scrutiny. Ms. Valdez added, we see grandparent custody disputes sometimes take this form. Grandparents who feel entitled to access use the system as a weapon. We can't allow that. It wastes resources and traumatizes families. I felt something release in my chest. The official report would protect me. If Veronica tried this again, there would be consequences. We are also recommending you consider a restraining order if her behavior continues, Mr. Mitchell said. Her recent contacts with your workplace and school suggest escalating harassment. I nodded slowly. I hadn't wanted it to come to this, but Veronica had made her choices. That evening, I sat Lily down for a difficult conversation. At 7, she knew something had been wrong, but I tried to shield her from the details. Sweetheart, you know Grandma Veronica hasn't been visiting lately. Lily nodded, her small face serious. Is she mad at us? Grandma made some mistakes. She told people things that weren't true about how I take care of you. People had to check to make sure you were okay. Lily's eyes widened. But I am okay. You're a good mom. My throat tightened. Thank you, baby. The people who checked agree with you. But Grandma might not be visiting for a while because she needs to understand that what she did was wrong. Will she say sorry? Children's capacity for forgiveness always amazed me. Maybe someday. But right now, we need to focus on us. You, me, our life together. Lily hugged me tightly. I like our life. Me too, sweetheart. That night, after Lily was asleep, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not from sadness, but from relief. The nightmare was over. My daughter was safe. My reputation was intact. Veronica never apologized. Instead, she sent me a single email a week after the investigation closed. It was full of justifications, claiming she'd been trying to protect Lily, that I'd manipulated everyone, that someday I'd understand she'd been right. I didn't respond. Her lawyer sent a letter threatening to sue for grandparent visitation rights. My lawyer responded with copies of the Child Services report and documentation of her harassment. The threat stopped. Through family members, I heard she was telling people I'd turned the government against her, that I destroyed her relationship with her grandchild out of spite. Let her tell whatever story she needed. The truth was documented, official, and protected. I'd learned something important through this ordeal. Documentation isn't paranoia. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. Protecting yourself and your child isn't selfishness. I returned to my normal life, work, parenting, the daily routines that Veronica had tried to paint as neglect. Lily thrived in therapy, learning healthy relationship skills that would serve her for life. Our home remained peaceful, stable, and full of love. 6 months later, I received a message from my aunt. Veronica had been telling family members she wanted to reconcile, that she'd overreacted, that she missed her granddaughter. Would you consider letting her see Lily again? My aunt asked carefully. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No, she's your mother, Esme, and I'm Lily's mother. My job is to protect her, not to give Veronica another chance to cause harm. My aunt sighed but didn't argue. She'd seen enough to know I was right. I didn't feel guilty about my decision. Veronica had shown me exactly who she was. Someone willing to weaponize the system against her own daughter, to lie to authorities, to risk traumatizing her grandchild to maintain control. People like that don't change without serious intervention, and Veronica had never acknowledged wrongdoing. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. I'd built a good life for Lily and myself. I'd proven I could protect us both. I didn't need Veronica's validation or her presence. We were whole without her, stronger than before, and free from her manipulation. Today, Lily is thriving. She's in 3rd grade, reading at a 5th grade level, playing soccer, and making friends easily. She sees Dr. Foster once a month now instead of twice, working through the last effects of the family conflict. She asks about Veronica occasionally, and I answer honestly but gently. Grandma made choices that hurt our family. Maybe someday things will be different, but right now, we are doing well without her. I've learned to trust my instincts. When I first started documenting Veronica's behavior, part of me felt guilty, like I was being paranoid or disloyal. Now I understand I was being protective. Every parent should keep good records, not because you expect the worst, but because you value the truth. The Child Services report sits in a file cabinet in my office, proof that I fought for my daughter and won. Not through drama or confrontation, but through preparation, evidence, and calm determination. Veronica tried to use the system against me, but the system worked exactly as it should. It investigated thoroughly, found the truth, and protected the child. Sometimes justice is quiet, documented, and methodical. And sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up destroying only their own credibility.